Before we get started, on this Saturday, March 25th, aliens are invading Ferndale, and you can be a part of it. Starcut Ciders is completely transforming 215 West into an interplanetary experience. The bartenders will be shaking up cocktails featuring Starcut Ciders and mocktails featuring Thirst Mutilator. Drag performances from Miss Michigan Trans Gay World Mia Cole, Mr. Trans Michigan Michael Christian, Jewel Jubilee, and Bentley James. DJs will spin all night while go-go dancers from outer space entertain.
Grab your tickets today by going to www.ferndalepride.com and clicking on upcoming events. That's ferndalepride.com and click on or tap on upcoming events. All ticket sales help keep Ferndale Pride free to the public.
Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. As we are recording this, the rain is coming down. There's a little bit of cloudy skies, but it is warmer. Spring is starting to sprung. I'm Jer Stays, and joining me on the line is
Fletcher Sharp.
Always good to talk to you, sir. How are you?
A little tired. It is the second day of Ramadan, but it's the first day of fast or swam. So it's going to be, a pretty interesting 28 days for me, but I'm excited for the challenge. I'm excited to keep committed. I'm sure everyone who is fasting has the same mindset.
Of course, and my love to everyone who is observing. We have got a lot of stories to get through today. We're going to talk about, I went to the Wayne County, State of the County event this week. A couple stories out of that, some housing things, especially some prices of housing, and talk about air monitors as well. So let's get into it. I went to the State of the County for Wayne County this week. It was at the Dearborn Performing Arts Center, full house. And it's interesting to me, Fletcher, what events get tons of coverage and like lots of people and social media traction versus ones that don't. So I was at this Dearborn Performing Arts Center. Man, like the room was of course packed, like what would be a state of the city address or something. But when you're on social media, it's separate from the like print and press media and whatever, but when you're on social media, it's stunning to me. It was like me and one other person who was tweeting anything or sharing anything about it. Yet the county serves like 1.7 million people, has so much going on in it, and yet it was silence. It's interesting to me how social media and especially Twitter seems to be rather specific in what it covers.
Yeah, I felt the inverse of that when I was covering the Michigan Panthers USFL event where they announced they're going to be playing in Detroit, where they had a lot of people, like a lot of media was at that event, like people that you would see on television or people you'd see doing other things or post-game breakdown. You really only saw tweets from like 4 or 5 separate people, like including myself. And they got a lot of traction, what was great, but it's like there's so many people here, so many like different media people who have Twitter accounts that have big following, and they're just like, nah, I'm just here for the free food, I guess. And, like props to you for that, but just it's like you said, it's wild to see how real life and like Twitter/social media life like very much are just so different in like how people care about things. I guess it really goes to show that social media is not real life after all.
But this story, I think, is important to talk about. This one is on the Juvenile jail where conditions have gotten really, really bad in Wayne County. There are allegations of sexual assault. There's overcrowding. Apparently, something like 60 staff members have been attacked since October. About 140 youth are considered unsafe in the current jail, and it's running at nearly double capacity for the staffing available. Because part of the problem with this is there are places, like there are physical beds, but there aren't enough people to monitor them. It's a balance of kind of both. So the county executive, in response to a number of reports, has declared a public health emergency, and representatives appeared in Lansing this week to ask for $150 million in funding to counties across the state that say they are dealing with these issues. When I was at this event, county officials were very clear that they believe this is happening across the state. On the other side, the state is putting the blame on Wayne County, saying that this is a failure of supervision. So I talked to Dr. Abdul El Sayed, who is now the county's health director, to kind of give me a quick thumbnail overview of what he thinks is going on. Take a listen. For listeners, from your perspective as a health professional, like outline in simple terms what the challenge is and what you're trying to do to address it?
The way to understand this is imagine you had a neighbor. And your neighbor has a bigger house than you, they have a nicer car than you, they're just generally better off than you. And one night they call you up and they say, hey, are you willing to watch our kids for dinner? And you say, of course, you're trying to be a good neighbor. They drop their kids off. And then you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and they never come and pick up the kid. And 10 o'clock rolls around, 11 o'clock rolls around, 12 o'clock rolls around, and they still haven't picked up the kid. Soon enough, you wake up the next morning, you realize those kids are still there. So you're working really hard to make sure that those kids are fed, taken care of, etc., but they never actually come and pick up the kids, right? And so it's a metaphor to help you understand the situation that we're in. The state of Michigan is responsible for providing long-term residential stays for adjudicated juveniles. They're only ever really supposed to be in our facility before they get their adjudication, which is their sentence. And then afterwards, they're supposed to go. But the state has shut down a number of these beds and has not invested in rebuilding them. So there are not beds for these kids to go to, and the state doesn't seem all that interested in building them. And so we're in a situation now where our facility is extremely overcrowded. Upwards of 65 kids in our facility, almost half, are post-adjudicated kids. They are stressing our capacity to care for them and creating an unhealthy situation, which is why at the county, under the CEO's leadership, we launched a public health state of emergency. And so we're basically saying, please come pick up your kids, right? That's the challenge here.
Are there places for those kids to go that you kind of identified? Do you think the state has an answer here?
The question of what the state's answer is a question of public policy, okay, right? And it is a matter of choice around whether or not you're willing to invest in beds for these kids or not. And so, we need policy that's going to do that.
Wayne County Executive Warren Evans responded to questions about what he thinks needs to happen after the speech. I got a few of those notes too.
What we decided was, and what we know to be true is, the overcrowding conditions have been such that our ability to provide the services we want to provide have been broken down. I mean, there's no question that there have been deficiencies at the juvenile detention facility, whether it's kid on kid or whether it's, employees. It's not something we ever want to see happen. It's not something that we're going to tolerate over the long term. But until we get more beds online, we're kind of frozen to not be able to. I mean, what can you do when you're 65 kids more than you're supposed to have? And so we acknowledge that there have been problems. We also know that the state's been a good partner on many things. We're not at war with the state, but we do need the state to put some more beds online. And in the meantime, this order acknowledges the fact that there are some problems that need to be dealt with, and it can give me the authority to take charge of it with an incident command person. And so the decisions made there will fall on me. I mean, it's at a point where the traditional bureaucracy that runs things is not getting it done. And we admit that it isn't. And we think the best position for us to be is assertively trying to fix the problem. And that's what we're trying to do.
What specifically do you want the state to do to remedy this?
There's only one simple answer. This thing really gets obfuscated because people talk about a million things. Take the kids that are yours to take. I got 140 kids in there. 65 of them should not be there. If the 65 are not there, then I don't have a manpower shortage. I don't have facility problems. And it's even more egregious when it comes to kids. Because understand, when an adult is convicted, he's sent away. And they get credit for time served, usually, time spent in the jail. Understand, these kids are committed to treatment, which means somebody has a treatment program for them that probably has a duration time, a year, 2 years. If the kid stays with me for 300 days before he gets there, he's been incarcerated for a year longer. For what reason? I mean, it's almost to me that it's a constitutional problem. I mean, the kid has no option until he gets to a placement and his treatment starts. He's going to be a ward of the government. I think it's just patently unfair.
All right, Fletcher, thoughts?
I feel like it's kind of a two-pronged thing. Yes, I don't want to sound like I'm understating anything or just trying to belittle something. Yes, it's an issue that Wayne County juvenile facilities are understaffed. They don't have the money to provide enough beds and everything of the sort. But also, they're double the population because there are some kids in there who probably really shouldn't still be in there, and some of them who probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. The average days that someone spent in a juvenile facility in Wayne County is about 100 odd days. There are some people who are in there for like almost a year, and like that's insane. Some of these people are in there and they haven't like even seen the judge yet. It makes me think of, obviously this is like the lowest point. It makes me think of Khalif Browder in New York, where he was at Rikers, which is obviously not juvenile, but he was in there for 2 years before he saw somebody. They finally got him out. There are people just getting lost in the cracks. And then you add on the fact that Wayne County does not have enough beds, doesn't have enough people to watch them. The fact that they're also in there with some people who probably should be in there. And then you get kids who are getting brutalized, unfortunately, and unfairly. It leads to this issue that makes it look kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but very dumb when you guys are arguing about like, well, it's your fault, but it's your fault. It's kind of both of your faults, to be quite honest. And like, I think it should be less of that and more of how can we help these kids, because the kids definitely need help.
Now, I know in a previous job, you've actually spent some time, like not long time, but some time in these kinds of facilities. What was kind of your read?
One, terrified. I was an adult in a juvenile facility working as like kind of a paralegal, sitting there watching the lawyer I was working for talk to his client and just looking at people and just looking at, like, you see the movies where it's like you see people walk up to the glass or walk up to the little table to talk, and some people are all like beat up and just look tired. And you're like, that's just a movie or just television. And for the most part, yeah, they over dramatize some stuff. But some of that is like drawn from nonfiction. Like you see some people walk up looking all beat up and looking all tired and looking all whatever. And you see their family looking concerned, like what's going on here, what's happening here. And then you see people who might have looked one way, even the client for the lawyer. The first time we saw him, he was kind of scared, but kind of, pepped up. Saw him, a few weeks later, that look was gone. The look of like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of timid is more like I have to fight people sometimes because if I don't, I'll get beat up. And it's just wild. And then to magnify that, sometimes, kind of like with jail and prison, if people are there for too long, it kind of gets too familiar. And that's how you get kids who go straight from juvie right to jail, right to prison. And if that's the case, like you're drastically altering someone's life for like one of the worst ways possible. And all it does is really just serve to keep them coming back over and over and over and over again. That's really depressing.
Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts. dailydetroit@gmail.com. Creative solutions, should they just open up the money? Is this something where we need to kind of rethink the system? As I said, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Another thing I wanted to mention was about environmental issues. The idea that we need to kind of move from helping folks after it happened to being a bit more proactive. And part of that is that County Executive Evans said that more air monitors are on the way. They're going to put 100 on posts around the county. 500 clip-on monitors are going to go on backpacks with kids who have asthma around the county, plus sensors on inhalers to record when and where they use them. The goal of all of this is to have more data when companies come for renewed permits so that the county has actual data on what is happening out there. It's something where there's been a lot of outrage among citizens that companies can do these things and they keep getting renewed for permits. Evans was basically like, we really haven't had the data to fight this.
Yeah, can I get one of those sensors for my bag and, a sensor for my inhaler too? Because for those who don't know, I've had asthma my entire life. My mother had it. Her mother had it. So it's just in me. If I have a kid, they're probably going to have it. I love Wayne County. I love the city of Detroit. I love Metro Detroit. But like, yeah, I've traveled outside of Metro Detroit and been like, man, this air feels different. And then I get back home and it's like, oh, it's because the air is not good here. That's like, I went to Colorado and like, I know that it's more nature-y in certain parts than say Metro Detroit. But like, I was concerned, going up a few altitude levels, like I'd have a hard time breathing, which I did, but the air was clean enough to where like I was fine. I got back and I'm like, I got these Colorado lungs for 2 weeks. I'll be great. It lasted me a day and a half and I'm like, bro, this is terrible. This is awful. I don't know what's happening here, but it's like, because the air is just not great. So whatever they're doing to try to take care of this is great. It's, in my opinion, awesome. And, should have happened a bit earlier. I know that they didn't have the data is their excuse. But yeah, companies that are high polluters should not be able to just renew and say, oh, well, we're working on it, for 20 odd years and making no strides at it. I mean, that's, in my opinion, probably a little bit wrong. That's how you got places like Zug Island, where people just started putting stuff places. They're saying, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. And now we have one part of the city that just, you go within, I don't know, half a mile, you can just smell it. It's like become like a national joke that like part of the city just smells like death. Like if you throw a carcass back, it jumps back itself. Anything they can do to make things better to breathe is great for me personally and for the entire county, because people need to be able to breathe or to do stuff.
Sharing kind of virally online, and it's something I wanted to talk about, is the pricing of some houses in the city. One, the most latest, for $515,000, kind of in the Green Acres neighborhood by Livernois, between 7 and 8 Mile. Now, obviously, there are some really nice homes in that area, and this is a home that is, decent. Like I would live in it, but the pricing is kind of whack because they're asking $515,000, or maybe it's not kind of whack. Let's talk about it. When it was recently purchased just like a couple of months ago for a lot less. And so let's talk about the situation here, because this is just an example, and it comes up often when it's shared, like an individual house gets shared online. And then everyone goes, oh my God, that's too much money. And then all my realtor friends go, well, if they can get it, and the market has kind of changed where people will pay more money for houses. And I think it's kind of a complicated issue. And I kind of want to get your thoughts on it and unpack it a little bit.
Number one, Green Acres, Sherwood Forest, what up? Amazing places in the west side of Detroit, a lot of historic houses, a lot of just awesome neighborhood vibes. But to answer your question, it's ridiculous. It is flat out ridiculous. I'm sorry. I know realtors are like, yes, if they can afford to pay for it, they can do it. But that's with anything. Like you start out pricing stuff high and it's like, well, this shoe costs $1 million. If someone's going to pay for it, then sure. But like realistically, no one should be paying that much for that house. I'm sorry. I know they put in work. I know that the people who did some renovations did a lot of stuff.
They did some stuff. Let's just be honest. Like there are those like foldable screens from like Home Depot on the front. Like you can see, the ones that you pay like $5 for because you're just needing something for like a couple of months until you grab something. Like we've all been there in that kind of apartment. And you look at this, it was sold January 6th, 2023 for just under $174,000 and then relisted a few days ago, March 20th, for $515,000, or a price jump of nearly 200%. And when people see this, they go, it makes them feel something, because this is a super clear, easy example where people go, man, I can't afford to live and like have a life on what I'm making.
I mean, and that's kind of why some parts of the city are getting priced out by people. It's because people are buying houses, doing sometimes really great renovation jobs, but most times doing average, and sometimes, in this case, doing not really great. I don't want to say poor.
Maybe mid.
Yeah, mid there, as the kids would say, doing really mid renovation jobs on these houses and being like, all right, well, now give us a bunch of money from the stuff we spent. I mean, it kind of hits home for me. It's because the house we live in currently is kind of how we got it, to be quite honest. The house across the street from us, the guy renovated it and sold it for about $600K, and the guy who owned our house was like, hey, I'm doing that too. And he tried to sell it for like $500K, and it sat there for a very long time and dropped almost half to what it was. And we eventually ended up getting it at a different rate that was not $500K, because I'm not balling like that. But like it's just seeing so many places around the city where it's like, we bought this house, we put in, we painted the shutters a little bit, we put in, maybe one air conditioner that, we got from 1970. All right, that's $100,000. More money, please. And it's like, look, I understand sometimes you get in a bit of a money pit because renovating houses is not cheap. Learned that after buying this house, we poured an X amount of money to fix it, and like we still have some ways to go, and it's like it's terrifying. But if you get in a money hole, like you need to really assess that before you really buy that house. Like you need to have that thought in mind. And I understand sometimes like the hole gets a bit steeper as you get into it a bit more. You find you have more issues. Maybe you didn't realize you had as much mold as you thought. Maybe you didn't realize the stairs were as rickety as you thought. Maybe you didn't realize the back porch was missing a few bricks. So if you stand it the wrong way, it sags. But like, these are things you need to like take into account. You can't just take the next saving or take the next charges and pass them on to somebody else and they give us this money, because your house is going to sit there for a very long time. And at that point, you're losing even more money.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of the show the other day. They recently moved from Corktown, and the best way to describe it is, in some ways, the vibe has changed, where when they moved in a while ago, there was, more middle-of-the-road folks. Now, the car brands have definitely changed. The employment has definitely changed. Like, it's just a place where it's about a lot more money and a different lifestyle. So they stayed in the city, but they found another neighborhood. And this is something that I have noticed across the city and to some extent in the region, where you've got people who are coming here for work or for other reasons. Work from home has changed everything. There are people who, and some of them listen to this show, and I know that they do, have moved here from New York or San Francisco or Chicago or something, and they have traded much higher payments for a lot more stuff. And it may seem crazy to us for $500,000 for this house in Green Acres that we're talking about, and I'll link to it in the show notes. But it's not to them where, okay, you're ditching someplace for $1.5 million, $2 million, $1 million, whatever, that you had none of these amenities, and now you get them all. So I see that, but with how limited Detroit's housing stock is, it's going to create a lot of pressures, and it makes them very apparent very quickly, because it's not like we have, we did demolish like tons of buildings recently.
And I don't want to sound like one of those people who's like, get off my lawn, I'm old Detroit. But like, this is how the city loses population, is people get pushed out further and further, and people come in from out of other places, and those people then leave, and then it creates more gaps between the people who were there and the houses that used to be. Yeah, when I was growing up in 19XX year, which is getting further and further away, and it feels like a lot longer ago, the population was 1 million people in Detroit. It felt bigger. Like, it felt bigger than 1 million people, but it was 1 million people statistically. Currently, it's about 630,000, and it feels smaller than that. It feels like there's less people than that here, but no, again, stats don't lie. But yeah, we used to live in Boston Edison, and I think the time we realized it was time for us to go was we had a neighbor who down the street who'd always walk his dog. We'd say, hey, chat for a second, whatever. He moved out, someone bought his house, walking across the street. I waited someone walking their dog, and they looked at me and crossed across to the other side, like further away from me than before. And I was like, oh no, this is becoming a neighborhood where people don't know each other that well anymore. We got to go. Like, we got to get out of here. And like, I understand, like, to your point, people who are making $200K, $300K, even $400K, coming into the neighborhoods, coming into the city, it's great economically. And especially if they're coming from somewhere like New York. I've seen some of those memes on Twitter and on Instagram, on Reddit, about like, oh, you want a 1-bedroom apartment that the dishwasher is also next to your bed? Yeah, $350K. There you go. It's yours. Like, yeah, of course, if you could move to somewhere else that, pay that, get a backyard, get an actual, patio on like, of course you'd want to have that for sure. I'm not going to knock you for wanting that. I don't know. I feel like pricing out houses that high and hoping that someone takes a chance on it, I feel like it creates more problems down the line. It's a really ugly ripple effect that I've seen one too many times and really don't want to see again.
All right, let's end the show on a positive note, right? Because we always like to send people out with the good vibes. The Detroit City FC season home opener is this Saturday, 4 p.m. What are you most excited about coming back to Keyworth after the long winter's nap?
Honestly, watching soccer not on a screen. That's really it. Like, win, lose, draw, whatever, just being out there, watching, experiencing everything about the sport right in front of you, experiencing the home fans cheering on their team, experiencing the rowdy fans having a new chant for the opposing team, experiencing the vendors calling for people's orders for food, experiencing kids dancing in the stands, experiencing just everything about it. Just the whole environment it's very different when you watch it on a screen. Like, I understand when teams are playing away, or if you live in Michigan, you live far away, you can't go to every single game. And I understand that. One of the things that I will hold with me going forward for the rest of my journalistic career was during the COVID years, where just watching a game online is like, all right, it's here. But even getting to go to the stadium, even if there aren't any fans, and it's just literally you hearing the people on the field talking, and you hearing the conversations between other journalists and other higher ups from other teams or league officials just talking a few 100 feet or a few feet down from you. Just hearing that is like, this is like taking in the whole atmosphere of just being here. And I don't know, it's like a dopamine boost for me, where just I get excited just being in the existence of it. It's kind of like how I feel about baseball to a degree too, where you watch it on TV and you're like, whatever, it's baseball. I can blink and miss some stuff. I could blink and not miss some stuff, whatever. But when you're at Comerica Park or Wrigley Field or anywhere else, it's a very different vibe. Very, very different vibe. It's electrifying. It puts a jolt in your system. So I'm excited just to get that feeling back this Saturday.
There is something special about, oh, hey, looking over the back of the stands and there's backyards. Or looking over, like going a couple blocks away and there's a drink in a place nestled next to a couple other things that are happening. And I know it's on a smaller scale, and I know the buildings aren't super tall, but there is something about that actual presence to me that matters so much, and I think helps infuse Detroit City FC with a unique energy over other sports teams.
Oh, definitely. To your point about how it just kind of feels very homey, you can walk through parts of the bleachers, especially on the side with the houses at the back, and like you can hear people playing music. You can see people having conversations, people letting their dogs out to go to the bathroom and just run around the yard. You see people who have no interest in the sport just walking by, looking at the stadium like, oh, wow, there's an event going on or something. And people are just excited just to kind of hover around. Whereas, you have something at Ford Field, Comerica Park, anywhere else downtown. And it's like, yes, you have some of these experiences, but like you don't see people living there. But like with Keyworth, it's just, you walk into the stadium, you look left, you look right. There are kids leaving the field because they're playing a sport. The teams are setting up. Kids are playing in the field next to it the best they can because there are going to be maybe cars parked or people just in the way. The whole atmosphere is just, it's professional, but like it feels like you're going to like a youth game. And I mean that in a positive way, not in the way people try to demean Keyworth Stadium. Like it's a professional stadium, it's professional seating. They seat 7,000, 8,000 people, but also like you might try to catch the ice cream truck like down the street. Like that's to me is like a perfect venue. It's whenever I go to play FIFA and I get a chance to choose my home venue, I always choose a stadium that's like a professional stadium, but you can also see someone's house behind the bleachers. Cause like to me, that's the perfect stadium for me. I always love watching FA Cup matches, US Open Cup matches, La Liga matches, where like the home team is a team from the lower league and they have a stadium, but behind the stadium is a bunch of houses. You can see people visibly watching from their window or from on top of their house. I love that so much. And the fact that Hamtramck has the ability for that in some of the places really warms my heart.
Well, with that, we are done for today with your Daily Detroit. As always, thank you to our members, patreon.com/dailydetroit for helping this thing go. If you want to do a one-time thing, as Alok did, he messaged me and wanted to support us with a one-time thing, buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. That's buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. Fletcher Sharp, so good to talk to you.
Of course. And I want to wish everyone who is partaking again in the holy month of Ramadan, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak, and stay strong.
With that, I am Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we will see you around Detroit.